Dangote Refinery's rise and the end of massive petrol imports, implications for Nigeria's economy and currency recovery. For decades, Nigeria, Africa's largest crude oil producer, faced a painful contradiction, exporting crude oil while importing most of its refined petrol. That cycle drained foreign exchange, weakened the Naira, and left consumers vulnerable to global price shocks. But 2026 is shaping up to be different. With the operational expansion of the Dangote Petroleum Refinery, petrol imports into Nigeria are falling significantly. Analysts point to lower offshore Lome prices, a stronger Naira, and rising domestic supply as key drivers of this shift. At the same time, despite missing its ambitious 50 million liters per day target in January, the refinery has reportedly surpassed imports as the largest single source of petrol supply in the country. So, what does this mean for Nigeria's economy, for pump prices, and most importantly, for the Naira? Let's break it down. 1. The beginning of the end for massive petrol imports. For years, Nigeria spent billions of dollars annually importing refined petroleum products. Even though the country produces crude oil, inadequate refining capacity forced it to rely on foreign markets. That dependence had three major consequences: pressure on foreign exchange reserves, increased demand for dollars, persistent weakness in the Naira. Now, recent data show a clear downward trend in petrol imports. Industry analysts credit rising output from the Dangote Refinery, competitive local pricing, relative strengthening of the Naira. Even though the refinery has not yet reached its full capacity target, its contribution is already reshaping the supply landscape. This marks a structural shift, not just a temporary fluctuation. 2. Dangote Refinery, missing targets yet dominating supply. In January 2026, the Dangote Refinery reportedly missed its 50 million liters per day petrol supply target. On the surface, that may sound disappointing. But here's the bigger picture. Despite missing that target, the refinery still supplied more petrol than total imports during the same period. That's historic. For the first time in decades, locally refined petrol is overtaking imported supply in scale and influence. Even partial capacity operation is enough to disrupt the old import-heavy system. This tells us two important things. One, the refinery's economic impact does not require 100% capacity to be significant. Two, import dependence is structurally declining, not just temporarily dipping. In economic terms, Nigeria is beginning to internalize value that previously went offshore. 3. Why reduced imports matter for the Naira. Every liter of petrol imported requires foreign currency. When imports were massive, dollar demand was constant and heavy. That demand put sustained pressure on the Naira. With reduced petrol imports, dollar demand for fuel purchases declines. Pressure on foreign reserves eases. Balance of payments improves. The Naira stabilizes. This is why some economic observers, including billionaire investor Femi Otedola, have expressed optimism that the Naira could strengthen significantly, even projecting a return below 1,000 Naira per dollar. Is that guaranteed? No. But the structural fundamentals are changing in ways that were impossible before local refining scaled up. Import substitution reduces one of Nigeria's biggest FX drains. That alone alters the currency equation. 4. The price effect. What happens at the pump? Lower imports and higher domestic refining can influence petrol prices in several ways. A. Reduced freight and logistics costs. Imported petrol includes shipping, insurance, and port handling charges. Local refining eliminates much of that. B. Improved supply stability. Fewer supply bottlenecks mean fewer artificial scarcity-driven price spikes. C. Competitive market pressure. If domestic supply is sufficient, marketers have less justification to rely heavily on imports priced in dollars. However, prices still depend on crude oil prices, exchange rate movements, regulatory policy, distribution costs. So while local refining improves the foundation, it does not automatically guarantee permanently low prices. It simply reduces one major vulnerability. 5. Strategic economic implications. The impact goes beyond petrol and currency. Here's what this shift could mean long term. 1. Stronger trade balance. Reduced fuel imports narrow Nigeria's trade deficit. 2. Higher domestic value addition. Instead of exporting crude and importing refined products, Nigeria captures more value within its borders. 3. Industrial multiplier effects. Large scale refining supports logistics, petrochemicals, storage infrastructure, employment, ancillary industries. 4. Investor confidence.